Hey, everybody, welcome to Every Damn Friday. This week, man, I've got an old friend, Mr. Mark Whitley. Man, we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But when I started playing music, there was a band in Bowling Green called Dryland Fish that I hated because they were so good and we were terrible, and I wanted to be better than them so bad. So I can thank you can thank Mark Whitley for the fact that I'm still playing music to this day because he kind of got it started for me. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. We played a Battle of the Bands, I believe, up at Western one evening.
Yes, we did, man.
That's
We
where we
we played a
met.
lot of shows together over the
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm doing good living out here in the country. It's good life.
I was gonna say, me too. We're kind of in our sleeping bear stage of life, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I pop out once in a while, play a little music, and do my thing here, and it
Well,
works.
so Mark, he's going to be humble, but he is one of the most fantastic craftsmen. He makes some of the most beautiful furniture, the most beautiful artwork from wood. I think that he used to say he knows what trees want to be. Um,
Huh.
I'm amazed by the stuff that you've got going on right now.
25 years I've been making stuff. It's all over the country now,
Isn't that
and
crazy?
I never copy myself, so it's always fun.
Well, and it's you make that like, I mean, it's art. You make it like if someone commissioned an art piece, they're saying, I want something unique and special. Do a lot of times it's just kind of like carte blanche, like they come to you with a budget and what they want, and you just kind of rock and roll with it.
Those are the best clients when they just say, "Hey, we dig what you do." Um, they give me a function, say they have a space in the living room, they want a big cabinet. And they say, "We got 6 feet here, and we've got this and this we want to store in it, but otherwise do whatever you want to do. And we can spend this much." And then they just tell me when it's done. So those are the best clients, and that's the people I love working for. The folks I don't get along that great with are the ones that give me a picture of a magazine, because then I say, well, why don't you just order it from those people?
I experienced that with painting. Like they'll be like, I want this portrait of this person, and I want it to look just like this. I'm like, for what you're going to pay, just buy a really nice camera and take a picture and have it made on canvas.
Right.
It's like I just finished. Well, I say I finished it. I did an installation for it was a public installation where they said we kind of want something like this, and when I delivered it, they were like, what we really wanted was this, this, and this. I said, so really, you're not asking me to be an artist right now. You want me to? I'm just I'm making a product for you. That's fine. Like,
Yeah,
I wish you told me
you're a
that up front.
manufacturer then.
Yeah, I wish you just told me that from the beginning, and you could have gave me the specs and the colors and whatever you wanted. Um, but man, like,
Well, I've always said the same thing. Some days you're making art, and some days you're making money.
yeah, there
And
you go.
so I've been lucky that for the most part, have been able to pick my clients at least for the last 15 years.
And this
Uh,
is what you do exclusively for a living, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I started in January of 2000,
So,
and here we
so
are,
from the
January
start,
2025.
so from the start, this has been all in on being a craftsman.
Yeah, since well, I worked in say public jobs, whatever, for about a year and a half after college, and I was a horrible employee. And, so I figured out um, that I had to figure out how to make it on my own. I didn't I didn't realize at that point that there was an art side to furniture making. I hadn't discovered Sam Malouf and James Krenoff and Gary Bennett and these makers that most people may not know, but that really laid the groundwork for guys to do what I do. Uh, because what we do, it's not expensive, it's costly. It's time consuming, right?
Because
And
your time
so
is worth something.
yeah, yeah, and all I've ever asked is to get paid what a plumber gets paid, you know? And so I've dedicated my life uh to making stuff. And I've been lucky that I found the Kentucky Arts Council, which I know you're familiar with,
Yeah.
and that I found the craft marketing program, and found all these resources that used to be exceptionally strong in Kentucky, but have waned a bit in recent years. But when I've started, that was it was critical. I gained such a good client base. In fact, a fellow that I met at a craft market more than 15 years ago, we're still good friends, and I bet the guy has 15 pieces of my work in his house. And he's been a superb client, and is, it takes, for me, it's been a relatively small pool of people because I only build maybe maximum 8 pieces of furniture per year. And so that's what makes my living. Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is crazy. It is crazy. And what a gift to be able to do that. So,
Yeah.
uh, and I get
So
to do it right here at the house.
so for the people at home that don't know anything about what you do, like everything you make is 100% from scratch using old techniques. Like if you had to put a value on the amount of like equipment you have, like how much old, what's the value of your shop as far as the
Far
tools you
less
have?
than far less than most shops, money wise. When you make a living by yourself in a shop, you don't go buy a bunch of new tools. I got a lot of tools from my dad, who briefly built cabinets when I was a kid. Um, I have since replaced most all of those, but I've bought at auctions. I've bought old industrial equipment, and then I rebuild it. Me and you, we like working on old vehicles, and so to put a new set of bearings in something's no big deal. And all of a sudden, you have a brand new machine for pennies on the dollar of what that would have cost new. And that's the only way I can make it, is to keep the overhead low. That's why I work. I work here at the house. I've got a dedicated shop space, of course, but I've only got about 1,000 square feet, and I've been in that 1,000 square feet for 20 years of my 24. Um, we just crossed that anniversary.
Well, and the thing that I've always respected about you too, whether it was the house that you built or digging your pool or whatever it is that you were doing, like
Hmm.
you're fearless with it. And my dad's he's telling me all the time, he's like, you just jump into stuff without really thinking about it. I'm like, no, I've thought about it, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid
Yeah.
of the work that it's going to take. And
You know, what's funny is that I still remember reading an article, and I think it was probably in GQ. This was before internet. This was back in the late 90s. I was really searching for what I wanted to do with my life, and I was living in Montana at the time. Uh, I read an article in GQ about this like mountain man, and he had all this cool stuff all over his property. This is before all the cool shows about mountain men. This was just a guy they found, and he had this super cool place. And I'm like, how'd you get all this cool stuff? And he's like, I worked my damn ass off. That's how I got it.
yeah,
And I was like, something about that little article. I still remember it. It's been almost 30 years since I read that, but it really did inspire me the whole time, because everything we've got out here, I've built, and now we started with the little house, and now we have 6 or 7 buildings, and I'm building a stage right now for the little festival we have, and I've got an auto working on shop, and we are constantly restoring a vehicle, a camper, a motorcycle, whatever it is that has wheels. I'm like working on that stuff too, because I can't
well,
build furniture all the time.
I wanted to talk about that too, because it's just like with me. I tell people a lot. They're like, "How do you do all the things that you do?" Because I have a lot of interest, and I'm like, it's like playing 5 games of chess at the same time. Like I'll go
Yeah.
to this thing, I'll make a move, and think about it for a minute, and then I move to the next thing. And it's nice to have that, because if art turns into work, then I got to get away from it for a minute and
Mm.
maybe go play some music. And if music starts to turn into, it seems like it's work, then it's nice to go out and work on the old pickup truck and have
Yeah.
a release there. So, do you feel like you have to have all those things going to kind of keep the gears greased?
Yeah, because, well, so I've always treated my shop, studio, whatever you want to call it, that's my main job. At 8 a.m., I'm in the shop 5 days a week. I'm in there. If I've got a project I'm working on, if I don't have a project, I'm in the shop at 8 a.m. and I'm really good about staying there until 1 o'clock. And then by 1 o'clock, if I'm in an intense kind of a job, because the precision is really high and it's intense, and the materials cost a fortune, so you're always scared you're going to
Right.
waste something. So after 3 or 4 or 5 hours of that, I've had enough for the day. And so then I'm ready to go work on a building I'm building around here, or work on one of my old vehicles, or um, maybe play a little bit of music. But like, the greatest fear I've got in life is coming to a point where I've got to do the same thing all day long for 8 or 10 hours straight, because my wife and I, we built our whole life. Um, so that's just not the case, you know. She was
Right.
exceptionally supportive, and my old vehicles, they pay for themselves once in a while. You know, I just sold one real good, so that gives me money in my pocket to have to spend and to start another project if I want to. And really, she knows, like, my family knows that if I don't have a bunch of projects, I'm not in a good spot.
You're unbearable.
It's the projects that keep me
Well, it's like you
mostly
like I
on
may
track.
be welding in new sheet metal and have an idea about what I want to do with some piece I'm working on.
Sure.
You can't be married. You have to divorce yourself from it sometimes to kind of, or I mean, it's like driving down the road. That's when you think of song ideas. You know, it's not when you're sitting there with a guitar in your hand.
But there's been plenty of times when I've been, if like I say I got a song started, and I'll go to the shop to work, and I'll have my little notepad, and working on something is a good time to, so your mind is in two completely different spots at the same time. It's a great place to work on lyrics. I don't know why. Uh,
Well, it's something about having. I mean, your one side of the brain is busy, so it frees the other side of the brain. Like if you're doing something technical, it frees the left side or the right side to kind of wander and play around. It's like I'm listening to podcasts or something happening, interviews happening all the time in the shop while I'm working, not really listening to it, but it's just like both of those sides of the brain have to be firing for me to
yeah,
kind of get in that zone, that flow state or whatever.
yeah, and so it's like, the other best part about the building the furniture is I never know what it's going to look like when I start. You know, it's all a complete. It's like writing a song and building a piece of furniture, to me, are almost identical. It's, you have a little spark, you build a little foundation, and then you see where it takes you.
But you've
And
got to work with the material. If
yeah, yeah,
it
that's
can
the
only
hard part.
bend so far, or it can
Yep.
only
And so say these days, uh, a big a big issue in my business is the cost of material. And so I go buy one walnut board. It might be worth 300 or 400 bucks. You know, you can't goof off with it much. So I guess what the experience has taught me is just how to just know what to do. You know, it would be, I thought for a long time I wanted to teach woodworking, and then I've sort of figured out, after a little experience in that it's very hard for me to verbalize or vocalize what it is I do. Uh,
when I restored the barn here to make it the Randall barn, Dad tried to come help me, and because I had such a clear vision in my head of what I wanted it to be, I was terrible to work with. You
yeah.
know, because I'm like, no, like I want it, this has to happen, and then and it's not fair. But you're right. Like it's if I have an uncle who came down and he was like, if you'd given me plans for this, I could have built it, but I could have never seen it
Hmm.
in my head and then made it, and
Well,
and
I
that's what you
can't.
would have banged your head up against.
Well, the piece I'm working on right now, I drew the basic outline of this cabinet and showed it to the clients. I said, they were super cool clients. I'm like, look, here's the basic size. I don't know what it's going to look like on the front. I can't tell you. That's not come to me yet. And so that really comes from sitting in my shop, meditating late in the evening, thinking on it. And then inevitably, I'll come up with what it is I need to do the next day. It may take a few beers to get there, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It may
yeah.
take a little inspiration to unlock the brain, but I will. That's how I've done it for years. And then the next morning it's like, bam, I know the move. And then I'll dive right into that. And then all of a sudden something has been created that's never been before. Uh,
Right.
but I couldn't see it until I got there. I couldn't see what turn to take until I got there.
But because they're every piece of wood is different, and every you know
Sure.
it that and that's what I love about what you do, because you know it's easy to make a cabinet.
Yeah, it's
Anybody can
easy.
go to YouTube and they can dovetail stuff, and they can you know you, that is not what we're talking about. it we're talking about a true, unique, one of a kind thing. And I
What
don't.
I'm trying to take the material, I'm trying to push the material as far as I can push it. I'm trying to, like an artist friend told me years ago, he said, figure out what you do, Mark, and exploit the hell out of it. And I remember that because it really, you I think in art world, you don't have 1,000 different moves. You got so many moves you make. That's why painters' paintings look similar. That's why
Right.
architects look similar. You have these moves, and so for me, it's been certain curves and stuff that I've used for years and years and years,
For
and it gives
as a music comparison, it's your genre.
yeah, it's your genre, and or even the way you put a song together. My songs are fairly simple. There's rarely more than 5 6 chords max, and they got a pretty solid standardized setup. I learned from Jimmy Buffett years ago: two verses, a bridge, and
Don't
another
bore us, get
verse
to the
maybe.
chorus.
And yeah, and you get your choruses and whatever your art is, you figure out what your moves are and you use them over and over, and you figure out how to use them better. And then before you know it, you created this whole body of work, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that looks totally different," but that guy made it, or that guy wrote that. Just like a Tom Petty song, it's a Tom Petty song.
What's the biggest challenge? I mean, I would, you know, I, you probably eh, have had friends call and say, "Hey, I'd like for you to make something for me, but my budget is here." I I don't mind saying that I've got this sort of client, folks around here that are wanting something special for their family for a Christmas present, that I don't mind helping them out and making that happen. But then there's like the corporate art, price.
Mhm.
You know, how hard has it been for you to come to that point where you're like, you know what, this is what I cost. This is
No, I'm not very good at that.
well,
Well, I'll tell you, here's what I've
it's
done.
hard.
Here, the few things I've done. I'm way out in the country. Nobody, unless you've been here, you don't know where I am. I don't have a sign. I don't. I'm not a place that you stop in.
Right.
And even my neighbors I've had for 20 years, they know what I do, but I rarely hear from them because I knew, like for me personally, if I was to have a little shop, say in the middle of Smiths Grove, that everybody could just pop into, it'd be horrible. I'd be, I'd be,
Yeah, people, you be a tour guide.
yeah, and I'd be cutting a little board for, all the time. Now, if somebody comes and sees me out here, I'm pretty cool with them because one thing, they went to the trouble to come out. And if they need a little something done, whatever, that's cool. I've got the tools, equipment. Now, a piece of furniture, that I'm pretty flexible. If the client's cool and lets me do what I want to do and they have a reasonable budget, I'll work with them. And I'll say, so then when I'm building it, I'll say, okay, maybe I don't buy that super fancy hardware, which can cost hundreds of dollars all on its own. Maybe I find something that I've already got, or find a way to cut a little bit of cost somewhere else without uh, cutting the furniture. I've said for years that my mantra has always been the furniture always wins, and that comes from when I first started out here, when we just built the house. There's a lot of months we could just barely pay the mortgage, and it would I was constantly faced with the the opportunity to cut corners, to make it use cheaper lumber or not build it as well. And I always thought, even if it's I got to buy this certain lumber to build this piece, and then we'll wait a couple weeks on the electric bill. That's what we do. because then I was able to create something that could forward my career.
Well, and I think you also what you've done and what my experience has been is if it's like selling a car. If I gouge you and you end up thinking, man, this guy took me, I'm happy with it, but yeah, man, he really got me on this one. They're not coming back. But if
Well,
somebody
yeah,
feels like they got their money's worth, that they probably should have paid more, then they're probably going to come back again when they have a need and say, I want to see this guy again. And you've probably got repeat customers, like the guy you said that's had multiple
I
people.
can't I can't tell you how many repeat clients I've had through the years. Most of the time, if I've got 6 pieces on order, 2 of them are repeat clients, and it's the other thing that I came up with years ago was that my furniture costs just as much as I can look you in the eye and it costs. If I can look you in the eye and say this is a
Mm,
$15,000 table, then I don't deserve to sell you that table for that because,
right.
I'm a handshake kind of a guy, and so I just always figured if I can look them in the eye and say what price it is, then we're good. Because when you first start out, you're like, well, it's really hard to figure your hours because we're not punching a clock here, and so
Right.
you think, well, uh, is it worth 25 bucks an hour? Is it worth 50, $100 an hour? And so when people come out here for repair work, it's a flat hour fee, and the rest of the time, it's what I'm trying to do is get an ideal weekly income, which happens once out of maybe every 20 weeks. But
But they're paying you for your experience.
that's
You're you're
right.
you're not paying me by the hour. You're paying me because you saw something I did before, and I arrived at that piece because I've been doing it for 20 years.
That's right. And when you hire when an artist takes on a commission piece or whatever, it's not like we work on it for 2 or 3 hours and 4 hours a day, and then we just don't think about it. You're
Yeah.
thinking about it 24 hours a day.
It's
Like
hanging up. Like it's going in somebody's house forever. And
that's
in your
part of
case,
the.
maybe it's going to be in a public space.
Mhm.
It's going to be in a museum. It's going to be somewhere where maybe
It's taking
hundreds
up
of
real
people.
estate there, so it's got to hold its own. And so, yeah, you're right. They're not paying me by the hour by any means. It's they're paying for the experience, I guess. Um, and because some people that buy really nice furniture, I sort of tag them as trophy hunters. They just want something nobody else has, and money's rarely an object, but they sometimes don't really appreciate it, which kind of makes me feel bad. I like for my stuff to be appreciated. Then
Yeah.
you've got like my favorite kind of client a lot of times is the self-made family who has a good bit of money, and they really do appreciate um, what someone can do with their hands. Like it really means something to them.
It's going to be an heirloom. It's going to
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
yeah.
They're investing in something for their house, but they also know that they're investing in keeping artistry alive, supporting an artist family,
Everybody
all the
needs a
things that go
Medici.
with it. Yeah,
Well,
because
and it's
because
one of those things
you
too.
you can sit on a bucket and eat off of a picnic table. Like you don't have to have nice stuff,
Yeah.
but when people can surround themselves with that, it really does. I think it gives them joy when they walk in the room. They see that piece of furniture. It makes them happy.
Well, and I think too that it's we're in that place where I can go to IKEA and I can get whatever. They'll ship it to my house and put it together and it's done. Oh, it's the same with people recording songs on their MacBook and
Hmm.
low quality, whatever. Like that stuff still works. Like it's got its place. I get it, but it's like we've lost an appreciation for like true craftsmanship in. It's like I don't know. Like I'm not a great welder, but there's something about me going out there and doing it myself that where I have a real appreciation for the end product. And
Yeah,
instead of just phoning it in or trying to take something old and make it new instead of just going and buying something new.
yeah. Well, it's uh, I think welding's great. I wanted to weld for years, and I finally got a nice little welder. Uh, and so, I use it for auto stuff. But then I made a huge fish weather vane that's out in my yard that spins around on an old truck hub. I was watching it today. The wind was blowing. This thing's 15 feet long, a big old fish. It's just swirling around out there in the wind.
Well, I'm not a good welder, but I'm a really good grinder.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I go through a lot of yeah, I'm not if I need fancy welding done, I got a guy,
Yeah, yeah.
but I can make stuff strong and I can do body panel welding pretty good if I as long as I don't get in a hurry.
I'm gonna throw it way back. So my first Mark Whitley experience, and again, this was probably even pre-floored, right? Was
Hmm.
you and your Land Cruiser driving around campus with the megaphone on top, announcing dryland fish shows down at Kelly Green's.
Yeah, I worked at a camp when I was in college, and in the summer times I worked at camp on Kentucky Lake, and they had this enormous megaphone that was laying in the barn, and I was like, "Hey, can I have that?" Sure. And I had a CB radio in that old Land Cruiser. So you plug a PA speaker into an old CB, and they had their own PA built in.
Yeah,
And so we made that sign. It said "Dry Land Fish Tonight." I've still got that sucker hanging up back on the back of my barn, and I put it on top of the cruiser, and we just did Blues Brothers thing, one
yeah,
night only, dry land fish, and
man. Like,
but
and
that's
I,
when
and I,
we could pack the same club 3 nights in a row,
we were playing music at a real special time for Bowling Green. I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was great, and Bowling Green would make you feel like a rock star, and they really would show up night after night after night if the music was good,
Yeah,
and and so it was at that point there was a really good collection of bands. It wasn't like anybody was competing against anybody. Nobody
no,
was weird with anybody. We all shared gigs. Everybody knew everybody.
and you all were. I feel like my memory serves me right, like you were real close to maybe like some major record deal kind of
We were
stardom.
close, and we uh we lacked a couple things. Uh, I think of understanding who exactly our audience was, which we did not understand until later years.
Yeah,
The same people I'm playing for is who our audience was back then, and we we were too full of ourselves to you know
hey,
uh
listen, I was there too, buddy.
yeah, yeah, but
But we
we
were
did
hot
we
shit.
did get to see behind the curtain a little bit, which was pretty great, and it opened it up to where, at this stage in life, I ain't gonna be a rock star. I'm not gonna make a living playing music, but I'm still making music, and if I get to play out 6 or 8 or 10 times a year, I'm happy as a clam.
Well, I think those of us who were not, you know, we're not just like flash in the pan guys. We weren't playing those shows to get sorority girls. We were playing shows because we really love playing music.
We really
And
love it.
and I think the guys, those of us that are still out here doing this thing, have figured out that it was always making the thing that we love the most, and we figured out a way to incorporate that into our life. And you and I have so much in common, and that's why I'm such a big fan of you. It's like I bought my grandparents' house. I'm in my grandfather's shop right now that I've turned into my studio. We were lucky enough to buy the farm,
Hmm.
to keep it in the family, and got the barn here now. It's like everything I do comes through this place now. There was a time when I was chasing stuff, and I was wanted to be in Nashville, and I wanted all this. But man, it's so good to be able to create in your own space and in your environment, in the environment that created you.
Yeah, I don't know where you went, man.
I'm still here.
Okay, well, I'm here. I just don't have you anymore. I can't see
Well,
you anymore.
you don't have to look at me. It's just I've just got a gray beard just like you.
Well, what's funny is that when I listen to like Van Winkle play these days, I'm like, hey, they sound just like we would have sounded if we'd have been just a little bit tighter way back then. And I'm
Yeah.
like, there must have been something about that music. And maybe maybe our little bands were, we were kind of on the front end of that. Really, amazingly, we were kind of right at the front end of the Americana movement and didn't even know it.
Oh, I agree. It throughout my whole music career, I feel like I've been 3 or 4 or 5 years ahead of, not because I had any kind of foresight, but just because of what I was doing. It seemed like I was ended up being ahead of the curve and a little too early to the party, uh,
Yeah,
and had already left
yeah.
by the time things got good, right?
Yeah, so when Dryland Fish released our last album, we had broken up before we released the album, or we quit playing. So then we put this record out, and at the time we could get it on satellite radio because we, knew who to get in touch with,
Yeah,
and it did great on the charts. And then we didn't get guy to support it. We didn't do anything. We're just
yeah.
like, yeah, that's cool. Look at that. It's way up. It's getting play all the time.
I mean,
And but we didn't do anything about it.
You were the Goose Creek of Bowling Green. You
It
know,
was it was a lot of fun. We were the loosest tight band you ever heard.
but you also, like, you spoke to, like, you know, you look at people like Tyler Childers and people like that now who are really speaking to their like to their region, and it's
Hmm.
very regional. And music, like you all were like that. That's where I learned how to do that, to write
Yeah,
songs
and
for the people that you grew up with.
and in years since, I've just really kept digging into that. The songs I write now are there. I still write songs about the country life and the farm and grandparents and try, and struggles of being out in the country and those kind of things that the guy like Childers can do. And man, when he does it, everybody in the world listens. But it's still doing the same thing. It's still
Yeah.
we're all just trying to tell the stories.
And I think we're also at a point in our life too where it's just about creating it. It's not a like I never really had any illusions of like that I was going to be playing stadiums someday, but it was
Yeah,
just like I Dad, whenever I quit teaching to uh, to play full time, he couldn't understand it. He's like, why would you leave the security of your job and put your family kind of in this peril, right,
yeah,
financially, to go do this thing? And after about a year and a half or 2 years of it, he came back to me and he was like, you know, I will never understand because I'm not that kind of person. I work 5 days and then I can take off. You know, I'm happy to have my weekend off and then I'll go back to work on Monday and do my job. He said, but I see that you have to make something every day. Like
hmm,
you have to try to make
yeah,
something new every day. So I understand why going into a building and being stuck there from 7 to 4 every day just made you miserable.
yeah.
Um, and it's still the case. Like as soon as I think I've figured something out, I'm going to go look for something else that I don't know how to do and try to learn how to do that.
Well, yeah, that's I like that. That's why I never rebuild the same vehicle. I always buy a different brand, and I'll teach myself everything about that vehicle, and I will rebuild it from the ground up, and then I'll be like, all right, now I know about that. I know about that kind of old Ford, and then the next time I get something different. And to me, it's like uh, really anything having to do it over and over again. I could probably pick 6 pieces of furniture and build
Crank them out.
50 of them and take them and sell them in stores and have a good little run like that. But I would be absolutely bored to tears,
Well,
so
I was complaining one time because I'd kind of got into a pattern of making some things that where people were wanting the same thing. And Stella, who's always right, my wife, was like, why don't you just do one of those things for $500 instead of doing five of them for $100,
yeah,
and just say, no, I'm only going to do one. And, but I was like, it's like, I can make them and it's making a lot of other people happy. And it's, what if nobody asked me to make another one of these? And you have that fear of it's going to go away. Uh, but she was right. It's like you you fall out of love with it if you have to. You know,
yep.
if it turns into too much like work, then you don't want to do it.
Hey, if I've got a set of 10 dining chairs to build, by the time I'm done with those 10 chairs, I'm absolutely stuck. You know,
You don't want to
And
sit down for a week.
taken me
You
3 weeks to
hate
build
chairs.
10 chairs, and it's hard work the whole way. And so it's like, just so to think about building 1,000 chairs or whatever,
Uh,
just to me seems like torture. Now, I realize that it is a great gift in life to be able to pick what we do,
yeah.
and to be able to uh, be stubborn about it. There's no way I could have done that without a lot of support and
But
a
you
lot of
didn't start out that way. Like you've arrived at
no.
this place.
Well, yeah, that's right. I did have a bit of help in the beginning, uh, just from family ordering stuff they really didn't need, but that's just the way family does.
Yeah.
But I've built this thing from well, I bought this little piece of property in '03, and said, "Hey, I'm gonna build a house here," and I had never built anything, bigger than some furniture, and all of a
And
sudden I was like,
I encourage everybody to go follow Mark and look at the pictures of his house. It is
"Well,
a
behind
super
me,
neat
that's
place.
my roof slash ceiling behind me.
Yes.
Uh, there's a mile of tongue and groove board on the roof of my house."
You need to be on one of those because I love watching those like unique house type shows like HGTV stuff where they go and like these people who have built these neat places. You 100% need to be on one of those episodes.
Oh yeah, yeah, I would welcome that. Hey, you can't beat TV shows. I've been on a few, and it's one of those things that you can't make happen. But when they call, I say yes and roll out the red carpet.
What
And
uh what uh what kind of vehicle are you building right now? Kind of change gears a little bit.
I just finished the '88 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. I've been driving it a good bit lately. It's in the all that's left of it is just teeny tiny little bugs. Like right now, I got a little air leak on one of my windows. I'm down to that kind of a point with it.
Then is it for sale after that?
Oh, well, I'm really enjoying driving it. So I don't know, with the Wagoneer, it's the first thing I've built that I can actually just jump in and go to town, which is 20 miles.
Because
So
the
a lot of the
F1
vehicles I
wasn't
built, you
made
can't
for
just,
that.
yeah. So this is the first one that I built that you can really use it as a daily driver. And but I still don't drive it in the rain, but it's
You don't want it no rust. Like we don't want to repair any more rust.
well, I'm really lucky. This truck sat in a garage for 20 years. So it was driven until '03, and parked in a garage down in Franklin. And then I got the opportunity to buy the thing, uh, but it had basically been sitting in that garage for 20 years. And I bought it in '23. So I've just finished it now. I bought it in spring of '23.
We bought two 64 C10s to build one, and now we're building two. one
Yeah,
one of them already had it had drivetrain and it was in decent enough shape. I'm like, let's just get this one on the road. It's shop truck. Let's have fun with it.
yeah,
And we're really digging into the other one. Uh, but I'd done a '71 Bronco and like spent 10 years building this thing. This was pre the Bronco craze,
uh-huh.
and I let it go for a lot less. I mean, I probably could have bought a really not. I could have traded it for a brand new Tahoe now probably if I
Right.
kept it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Uh, so are you still working on your C10s?
yeah, I'm deep in body work on the one that we're gonna make nice
Uh-huh.
and replacing sheet metal, and then the other one we're gonna put a new wiring harness on it. Dad's been working on the drum brakes, and we got it running. It's we're just the decent pieces from the two of them we're throwing on that one. Put some white wall tires and some
Yeah.
steelies, and we're just gonna drive it. So the other one will take a while.
Well, I do have another truck in the yard. It was given to me, a '69 F100
Nice.
Ranger. But I got to tell you, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna pursue it. When you dive into a vehicle, uh, you got, like, there's kind of a minimum amount, but it's going to take that much just to get it rolling and on the road and safe,
Yeah.
and brakes and tires and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
this truck sat since 1985 in a barn. So the last time it was registered is 85. So it's been 40 years sitting in a barn, and it's it won't run. The timing set jumped, and so it's like I can't even make it just rumble in the yard to give me a little inspiration. Like,
What's it got in a 302 or a?
got the factory 390.
Oh,
This truck
see,
has factory, it's 1969, factory air, factory power steering, and factory power drum brakes all around, but they're power drums.
really?
I didn't even know they made those.
I didn't either.
But the thing is that like the steering system is horribly antiquated and hard to work on.
Yeah.
The 390 is not worth putting a whole lot of money into. And
You just need to put
so,
a 460 in it and
yeah,
uh, put some big old. Is it a 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive?
two.
Okay.
It's a straight up pipe haul truck,
Is it
but
short
it's
bed, long bed?
long bed, chrome trim, two-tone brown over cream,
Oh, nice.
and um, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird deal. The old fella gave it to me. He said, "I'll give this to you if you'll restore it." And I was like, "Sure, I'll take it home. We'll see what we can do." And so, but it's one of those no title trucks. So I
You'll
got
have to
nothing to
apply
even
for
saying
new
it's
one.
mine. And so it's a guy tried to buy it from the other day, and I was like, man, I can't really sell this to you right now. I got nothing to say, it's mine.
Yeah.
And then
I
we've got my kid, 88 F-150. That's what he's driving. So
Nice.
we got 3 Ford trucks sitting in the drive now.
I had a when I first bought the farm, in the barn um, was a 50. It's a 52, I think, Chevy 1 ton spreader truck that my granddad had borrowed from a local man who his philosophy was vehicles don't wear out. You just get tired of them. So he would just replace engines in them. He had a trucking company. Anyway, granddad had got this spreader working and he spread lime all over the farm, and used it for multiple years. But it sat in the barn and granddad passed away and it was there. And I was getting ready to start renovating the barn. And I called the guy who was this man's son and said, "Hey, is this your truck or my truck?" And
Yeah.
he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's been sitting here for a long time and I don't know what the deal was. Um, I mean, it's you. I feel like it's yours. If you want it, you can come get it. It's kind of in the way. I'm happy to keep it." And he ended up coming and just signing the title and paying the taxes and saying it's yours, as long as you'll kind of take care of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's no shortage of vehicles in the Mitchum family.
Well, I wish I could have kept all my old ones, but I've only got so much roof, and I feel guilty when I'm not driving them,
Yeah,
And so, like, I had the '68 Jeepster Commando. Nobody had one of those, and
yeah.
I restored it to. It was a beautiful little Jeep, and I sold it back in the fall. It took me 2 days to sell it for my asking
Oh
price,
yeah.
and um, and
You probably had 10 people fighting
I
each
took a
other over.
I know if I'd have waited till spring, I could have done better, but it was a needed some cash going into fall, and I was like, man, I don't want that Jeep to sit there through another winter
Yeah.
because I drove it some in the winter, but with the Grand Wagoneer, I mean, I'm not going to drive the old Jeep that's all shaky and
Yeah.
loud when I've got this luxury Grand Wagoneer. I tried to find my old Land Cruiser.
Did
Uh,
you?
I had that '82 Land Cruiser for 10 years.
I loved
Uh,
it.
I had it when I got it when I was, uh, yeah, I got it when I was 20 and kept it till I was 30. I drove to California 6 times, and I actually found the dude's name that I sold it to, found him on Facebook, sent him a message. The truck was on his Facebook page as his cover photo, but I never heard a thing back from the guy, and
He didn't want to get rid of it.
probably not. Plus, I sold the truck for 6 grand when it was running perfectly, and now they're worth 35.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you get old. Your stuff you had when you were young is all of a sudden worth a punch.
Yeah, well, it's like I said with that Bronco. Like if I
Yep.
could have just left it parked and even not on the road, it would be worth 35 grand.
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, we don't know what's coming down the pike. And fact is, every old vehicle I sold, I had to sell it probably to buy the next vehicle I needed.
I've sold a lot of really cool guitars because I needed to make a payment or something at that time, and I don't regret it one bit.
No, you just gotta figure out how to just keep on chugging down the road, right?
Yep, stay liquid. Uh,
Yeah, stay liquid.
so, music wise, what do you got going on there? I know you posted a video of you of a performance that you recently done, or you got anything coming up in the future?
I'm trying to get a little combo kind of together to record some of those songs more professionally.
Yeah,
Got a guy who we all know with some interest in helping produce that, but we're still kind of dancing around it to see what we're going to do. I've been burned a bit in the past on such things, and so uh, you know what, with music, I've that performance or that show from the Lyric Theater is, for one thing, it's the only recording of a lot of those songs that's out public, and the sound quality, the video quality is great. So it's really, really nice to have that out there. Um, and it's even possible, we might spice up those recordings a little bit, but I mean, they're 4-minute songs. We should just
it's
start from scratch,
it's there's still it you know recording music is like that's the fun part anyway. Going into the studio, banging it out. You know the kind of rubbing up against each other about ideas and a producer saying I really like this here and you saying no I'm gonna stick with like that's the creation of it's fun. Once it's recorded, usually I'm over it.
Yeah, well, so some of these songs, it's like they've been around for a long time, and although I tried to record for years, it just was a dead end street, and so it's kind of like I need a little bit of closure on some of them. I keep
I
playing
I
them so
I
to
just
keep
did
them
that
in
with a
the.
record. It's like I had some songs that I just never kind of put on tape, and I just wanted to kick them out there so I could move on to whatever was next.
Well, and to tell you the truth, there's a whole pile of songs I did that we're trying to we recorded several times 10 years ago. I don't even play those songs anymore. Like they didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
Like the ones that you're right, 6 songs, you end up playing one of them for a long time.
Well, and you'll and whenever my experience has been, if I have 15 songs that I'm kind of trimming down to try to make an album of 10, once you get into the process of making a record, you end up writing five more and cutting five of them anyway.
To me, it's when as like uh, there's lots of reasons I write songs, but one reason is if I feel like anybody cares, and then all of a sudden the juices will start flowing again,
Yeah.
and or it's in great times of distress. I had a really bad week a few years ago, really really bad week, and I wrote 5 songs though. Like I wrote a
Yeah.
song a day. My brain was about to explode, but the songs were just gushing out. I'd wake up every morning with a song. And out of the 5, I'm still playing, at least one of them I play all the time still.
Yeah.
And so music comes from a whole lot of different places. Otherwise, with music, I just, play out a little, played Bowling Green Sunday, had an awesome big crowd. Had a Joel William Hill on the fiddle sit in with me, who's just such a treat to play music
Were you
for.
at White Squirrel?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I
yeah,
haven't
and
played in their new spot.
oh man, they've insulated all. It sounds great. They got good PA. They got two sound guys there, and um, nice stage. So it was great. And I played at 3 on a Sunday afternoon, and the room was full. So
And
yeah,
you were in bed by 8 o'clock.
you can guarantee it. I was.
Well, Mark, man, I thank you so much for visiting with me today. I know you're probably a reluctant podcast guy, and for me, I the only people I'm interested in talking to are the people that are out there doing the kind of things that you're doing, and I think it's inspiring to other people. These are the type of people that I want my kids to to look at and create a life for themselves. I know you're just like me. I do all this crazy stuff, and I just hope that my kids will appreciate
Hmm.
that they have an opportunity to do whatever they want to, and
Yeah,
and we live in places where that's not really usually encouraged. It's like
that's right.
you need to go get you a job, and you need to get some security and and start your family early, and go ahead and get that 401k started and all that stuff. And I feel like we've flown in the face of some of that over the years, and but it, but it, I can't think of anybody that's happier than the people that do the kind of things that we do.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, I hope my kid realizes that too. That I've tried to show that to him. I don't know if he paid any attention, but I bet he
It'll
has.
be delayed. It'll be delayed gratification. They'll come back to you on your deathbed and tell you how great you were and how much they looked up to you. They're not going to tell you now when they're teenagers, but
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Get out there and see what's over the hill. Find a way to make your own way in the world,
yeah.
and don't just be another ant crawling along. Figure out a way to do it on your own.
Well, buddy, I appreciate you, and I'm proud of you, and I'm glad that you're my friend, and I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope you sell $1 million worth of furniture this year in 2025.
Yeah, I hope you do good in 2025 too. Thanks for having me on. Really
All right,
appreciate it.
buddy. Thank you so much,
All right.
guys. Thanks for watching Every Damn Friday. You can find Mark Whitley. What's the website?
MarkWhittleyStudio.com.
All right, he's on the face page and all that good stuff too. So
Face page, Instagram. Just
yeah,
Google Mark Whitley. You'll find me.
there you go. Well, thank you, buddy, and like again, I hope you have a great 2025.
Thanks, Josh.